Hi, and welcome back to our YouTube channel,
Fulfill the Game of Life.
Well, we finally are back. We got a series of videos that we're going to put together. We're going to start off with our final thoughts between traveling between the US and Portugal, because the memories are a bit more fresh and the things that you like about one country versus another country just become more obvious right after you travel back and forth. So let's get started. First of all, you can just look behind us and probably guess at one of the things that we love: the beach. We're here in February. It's warm, it's beautiful, and
we're in the Algarve, and it's just another piece of paradise.
Yeah, very nicely said. This is just an unbelievable country, and we've already got some great footage from the Algarve that we want to share with you guys, but we'll save that for the next video. But let's reflect just a minute. We'll start with the number one thing. The cost of accommodations for what you get compared US to Portugal is just night and day. It's not even close. We stayed for about the same amount in Lyons, Georgia, small town, and let's just say not ideal accommodations. The place was nicely remodeled, so we have no complaints about that, but the neighborhood is just small town, rural Georgia, America. And for the same amount we paid for a month there, we paid for a month, almost 6 weeks here, honestly. And look at this. I mean, look at behind us. So the cost for the quality of living, at least for accommodations, it's not even close.
It is a stark difference. It is like Richard said, night and day. You're recording.
Now I'm recording. What do you think about that?
It is gorgeous.
Isn't that beautiful? That's crazy.
Just another piece of paradise in Portugal.
That's nice. This is beautiful, beautiful place.
Well, here's a view from the other side.
Sunset side on this side.
Yeah, you can't really tell how beautiful it is, but it's just as gorgeous as the other side.
It's all about perspective.
Right. You can imagine, you know, a very rural place, and you compare it to this paradise. I mean, really.
It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. So we'll take that and we'll move on to number two. A lot of the reflections for driving, the driving differences between the two countries, and their pluses and minuses, honestly, on both sides. So we'll kind of start off with the things that we still enjoy about the United States. First of all is I was reminded after a month out of Portugal that I get in the car, I drive from Lisbon down to Faro, and once again, the rude awakening of the tolls. One stint of the major highway, almost the only major way down here, $23 worth of tolls for a 2-hour drive. And of course, the cost of fuel, it's gone up even more. It's gone up in the United States as well, but the cost of fuel still at least twice as high as the United States. So that's still hard to get used to. On the flip side, I miss the roundabouts. The first week back in the United States, in Phoenix, Arizona, it's 5 a.m. and I get caught by 3 consecutive red lights, and it takes 30-40 seconds between each red light, and you're just sitting there and there's zero traffic, and you're sitting behind red lights, 3 of them in a row.
Yeah. How
frustrating is that? You get back to Europe, there are roundabouts everywhere, you almost never come to a stop. So I really miss the roundabouts in Europe. But the flip side to that is the narrow roads in Europe versus the really wide roads in the United States. It's just more challenging. I told family when I went back to the United States, I literally have lived my whole life and maybe hit 2 rims in my whole life. And I'm here in Portugal and Europe broader, and I have 3 scratches on 3 different rims. So the narrow roads are still hard to get used to. And I miss the wide open in the United States. The final thing is, and I think I get an impression off people's comments that the perception of the road quality is different between the United States and Portugal. It's actually comparable. Both sides have, once you're on the motorway, you're on the interstate, The quality of the road on the major roads is actually comparable. They're very similar and not that much different. When you get off in the rural side of either country, the roads get rougher. So, you know, the quality of roads are about the same. And really closing out the section on driving, the one thing you miss so much about Portugal is you get on the interstate in the United States and people they drive in both, they clog up the entire roadway. You can't get past people, and it's just frustrating because you come back here, people get over, they ride on the right, they pass on the left, and they just follow basic traffic rules, and it makes driving so much more pleasurable. Next on our list,
food. So when I got back to the U.S., the first thing that I really went to, because I'm Hispanic, is I went and I bought some corn tortillas because I have had the hardest time finding straight corn tortillas here so that I could make tacos, because for me, I could have tacos every single day, but not for Richard.
But they're still good.
Exactly.
No mistake, they're good.
So I made tacos several times while I was there. So I definitely missed the specific kind of Mexican food that you can have in the U.S. that I haven't quite found here. And what else? What did you miss?
Well, we went to Popeyes, of course. We had all of the foods that we talked about in the video before we left, so we enjoyed that. And then you come back to Portugal, and you realize all of a sudden you miss those foods that you've added to your favorites list.
Yes, we definitely miss the cheese and the black pork and what else?
The red port wine.
Oh, yes.
As well. So, you know, the foods are, just as we said in the other video, expanding your horizon. You miss them when you leave the States, and you miss them when you go back to the States, and the same thing with Portugal. So, be prepared to miss the foods from both directions.
Right, but the funny thing is, on the way back, I did remember to bring about 6 bottles of our favorite hot sauce, our habanero hot sauce. So I had to leave some clothes behind so that I could make room in my suitcase for the hot sauce. And I brought my favorite taco seasoning. And so
we're preparing for tacos.
We are.
And we will say, yes, you can buy hot sauce all over Portugal. We see it everywhere, different variations and varieties. But this brand is by far our number one taste. Not only is it hot, but it just has a taste we both really love, right? And we've not seen the brand here. But if you see it and you like hot sauce, we suggest you give it a try. The next thing is?
The weather.
The weather.
So, back where we were in Georgia, and even when I went and visited in Arizona, the weather is actually very different. When I was in Tucson visiting my son, the weather was pretty comparable to here, other than you're not on the beach. But in Tucson, Arizona, around this time of year, it is absolutely perfect. Very little humidity in the air, and very cool temperatures. A little bit cold at night, but otherwise it's perfect. But in Georgia, I think we experience a little more cloudy days, rainy days. Would you say around this time?
I would, yep. Yeah, and it's the first time of the year, actually the only time of the year that I saw frost. I saw frost in Arizona, I saw frost in Georgia, and when here in the Algarve, pretty much the lows every single night may touch the high 40s. So the ocean keeps the frost away, but the highs during the day, as you're saying, to like Tucson, they're comparable. The highs touch almost every day. You're in the mid 60s, high maybe 68 or so, 70 over the last 3 weeks, but you just don't get the frost. And as they say, you know, people come here for the winters, and there's no doubt why. The weather here is just beautiful, and we've been enjoying it.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is the malls and the, I guess you would say, central buying experience that we've experienced, I guess, between the U.S. malls and the malls here in Portugal.
Yeah, you have to admit, in the last 2 to 3 years, and COVID made it even worse, where you do almost all your shopping online.
Yes.
Except for groceries, right? And then you'd go out to buy groceries. So it was, we put early videos together about how to use Amazon when you get over here. We're so addicted to it. And oddly enough, we have found a new enjoyment for going to the malls.
Yeah.
The stuff is there. You buy it, you put it in your hand instead of waiting 2 days. So that's been interesting. The food courts are multiple food selections when you go to the mall, and the theaters are there. So we actually enjoy going to the mall. Oh, and
the grocery stores.
The grocery stores are there.
So, like in the U.S., you'll find, a plethora of options for food, and the movie theaters as well. But in Portugal, you will find big grocery stores at the mall, and for me, I find that absolutely convenient, and I love that part of going shopping at the mall, because you can go watch a movie, pick up whatever electronics or whatever it is that you need from the mall. I've had to go to NOS and fix my SIM card. So, I mean, everything's there, and I just absolutely love it.
It's so weird. It's like, it really is like going back 4 years in history where the malls existed in the United States instead of them just closing down. And yeah, we look forward to the mall. You get to see everything. You get to buy your groceries. You get to go to the movies. You get to eat out. And then you go get in the car and you come back. So we've actually enjoyed that.
So I guess the next thing we wanted to touch on is the difference in, I guess, the feeling of safety in each of the countries, and the level of violence that we're aware of. Now, keep in mind that we don't really watch any local news here. I did reach out to a friend of ours, and I asked him, what do you see in the news about the violence, and is it comparable to what we hear in the U.S.? And by far and away, it is so much, I guess...
It's a tough word, but it's less violent. And it really is. Statistics say it's about 6 or 7 times less murder rate here, but we still get feeds from the United States. We do get news articles to our phone, and it's so rare to hear about violence here, if at all. To Christy's point, we don't watch the news, but the moment you land and you turn on the news in the United States, in Arizona, we're there, in Phoenix, every night, 2 to 3 killings. And then the one that really hits really hard is small town Georgia. There's a mother and a daughter shot 4 blocks from where we live, shot and killed. And that rides on you differently once you've been somewhere that you practically never experience violence, and you hear it. Statistically, America's still safe. And we don't want to give the impression everybody's running around shooting everybody. But as a ratio, 7 times, 8 times more adjusted for population. So just kind of wrapping up the violence thing, again, we don't want to give the impression that it's just terribly unsafe in the United States, but we have been here for almost 8 months now, and we never hear news of violence. I mean 0 news of violence. So it's just noticeable. And it's unfortunate in the United States how often you do hear about it. Whether it's media or whether there really is that much violence is a little bit harder to fully understand fairly, but it's there. It's clearly noticeable.
So in this next segment, we're going to talk about COVID and the difference in, I guess, the mentality. I don't know if you want to say mentality, but attitude towards having respect for others when it comes to COVID. And in the U.S., there's a general sense of people are feeling like their rights are being infringed upon if they're being told that they have to have a vaccine or there are mask mandates. And I've noticed that in Portugal, there's really less of that, and there's more respect for your neighbor, for your fellow citizen. as far as wearing your mask and being vaccinated. And that is evident in the percentage of people that are vaccinated in Portugal versus the US.
Yeah, the numbers we've last seen, Portugal is the highest in all of Europe, if not approaching the world. And as Christy mentioned, in the United States, there's just this massive undertone. Half of the country thinks it's a political statement, the other half thinks it's a medical statement. And we're along the path that we believe in the science. We know America leads the entire industrialized world with deaths from COVID. And in this one post that came through my Facebook feed from a friend, and it just hit me hard. I took a screenshot of it, and I thought I'd share it here with you. So what did all that turn out to? Well, turned out to both of us catching COVID.
Yeah.
And I had to delay my flight. I had to go through all of this mess simply because people are less concerned. Well,
I guess in general, the level of respect that everyone has for each other, and making sure that they take personal responsibility to not only take care of themselves, but to be respectful of others as well.
Very nicely said. Thank you.
Well, that wraps things up. If you liked the content of this video, please give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Thanks for coming along, and we'll get back to you with much more detail about the Algarve, probably the best known of all Portugal, and I think people are probably darn curious to even more details here. We've got some great drone footage, can't wait to show you, and we've already had our first adventure, so future videos coming.
Ciao.
There's just, uh-oh, your flip-flops almost made it out.
Uh-oh.
Grab him. Had to save a flip-flop. Bloopers.
All right, watch yourself.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Note to self, don't put your flip-flops anywhere near
The incoming waves.
Exactly.
Huh? That's too funny. All right, so we saved the flip-flops. There we go.